Hello and thanks for joining us for this Thursday morning edition of Newsbreak, coming to you from Seoul, South Korea. Filling in for Han Dan this week, I'm Mark Broom. Our top story this morning, President Park Geun-hye is due to attend the East Asia Summit in Laos. The South Korean leader will continue to press regional leaders on the need to keep the pressure on North Korea over its nuclear missile programs. Song Ji-son starts us off.
The final stage of President Park Geun-hye's multilateral diplomacy tour takes place at the East Asia Summit. The summit includes the 10 ASEAN member nations plus the 3 East Asian countries of Korea, China, and Japan, and the U.S., Russia, India, Australia, and New Zealand. President Park will refresh her call on the international community to implement the UN sanctions on North Korea, which threatened regional peace with yet another missile launch on Monday when the G20 summit was underway in China.
At the East Asia Summit, the best strategic forum in the region that's attended by the leaders of ASEAN, the U.S., China, Japan, and Russia, President Park will call on the world to send a strong message that North Korea's nuclear program cannot be tolerated. We must continue to cooperate to help Pyongyang make the right choice.
During her stops in Russia for the Eastern Economic Forum and in Hangzhou for a G20 summit, President Park stepped up the pressure on North Korea, announcing measures to beef up trilateral coordination between the U.S. and Japan, and reinforce trilateral communication with the U.S. and China to counter North Korea's increased nuclear and missile provocations. Following talks with Abe, President Park will have completed a series of bilateral talks with Russia, China, the U.S., and Japan. The leaders will all gather at the East Asia Summit on Thursday to further discuss regional security. Song Ji-son, Arirang News, VNTN.
Now, President Obama's Deputy National Security Advisor says Washington may reconsider the deployment to South Korea of the controversial THAAD missile defense system if, and it's a huge if, North Korea scraps its nuclear missile programs. Park Jong-hong has the details.
The United States would be willing to think twice about deploying THAAD on South Korean soil if North Korea abandoned its development of nuclear weapons and ballistic missiles. This is according to Deputy National Security Advisor Ben Rhodes. He made the remarks at a press conference in Laos when asked if there were any circumstances under which the missile defense system would not be deployed. Rhodes stressed the deployment is solely intended to counter North Korea's threats. But he said the U.S. hasn't seen any signs North Korea intends to change its ways in light of the regime's recent launch of 3 ballistic missiles into waters near Japan. He also said Washington would not reconsider the THAAD deployment just because China and other countries more strictly implement sanctions against the North. In addition, he pitched the need to focus more on the sanctions as North Korea may find ways to bypass them.
So we have to be very vigilant in sanctions enforcement, and we have to maintain the sense of urgency among the international community.
In the wake of Pyongyang's latest missile launches, the U.S. Special Envoy on North Korea will visit South Korea and Japan in the coming days. The State Department said Ambassador Sung Kim will meet with his counterparts from September 10th to the 13th in Tokyo and then Seoul. Park Jong-hong, Arirang News.
A 2-day parliamentary hearing has begun into the restructuring of Korea's financially troubled shipbuilding and shipping industries. The hearing has already gotten off to a rocky start, though, as one of the key witnesses, Hong Gi-taek, a former chairman of the Korea Development Bank, hasn't been heard from for a couple of days. Hong attended a controversial closed-door meeting at the presidential office last year where officials reportedly decided to use billions of dollars of taxpayer money to bail out Daewoo Shipbuilding and Marine Engineering despite allegations of accounting fraud within the ailing shipper. Aside from the hearings, a 4-day parliamentary Q&A session with government officials will get underway on September 20th. The World Trade Organization has ruled that both the targeted dumping and the dumping margin calculation method that the United States employed in its anti-dumping investigation on Korean washing machines constituted a violation of its rules. The decision supports an initial ruling in 2012 when the WTO said the 9 to 13% of anti-dumping tariffs levied on Korean washing machines was a breach of its agreement. Based on the latest, and this is the final ruling, the US is obliged to hold negotiations with Korean manufacturers Samsung and LG for compensation. Apple has unveiled its latest iPhones, the iPhone 7 and large-screen iPhone 7 Plus. The new devices come with a faster processor and better camera, with the iPhone 7 Plus featuring 2 digital camera lenses. The phones offer twice as much storage as the iPhone 6S and are water-resistant for the first time. Now, demand for the iPhone has waned in recent months, but the device continues to be the biggest source of revenue for Apple, which has sold over 1 billion of them since the iPhone was launched in 2007. The new iPhones will debut on September 16th in the US and 24 other countries, including Korea, in mid-October. Orders will start on Friday. Now, the 2016 Paralympics have begun in Rio, with the opening ceremony coming to a close as we speak. The ceremony featured the customary fireworks, music and dancers, as well as somersaulting extreme wheelchair athletes. Over the next 11 days, 4,300 athletes from 159 countries will be competing in 23 Paralympic sports. That includes the 139 competitors from South Korea, who have set a target of 12 gold medals and a top 10 finish. And those are the stories we're following on this Thursday morning here in Seoul. Do stay tuned to Arirang TV. We'll be back with our next news bulletin coming up at noon Korea time. So until then, goodbye.